Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. It's April 1st, and no fooling around today. We've got a lot to talk about, starting off with one of the most amazing NCAA tournament finals upsets from 1985. So a few things to throw out there before I dive into the meat and potatoes of this game. First, this was the first year the tournament had expanded to 64 teams. And secondly, it was the last year there was not a shot clock. Both of those things kind of figure in with this game. Villanova made the tournament by the narrowest of margins. They finished the regular season 19-10, 9-7 in the Big East, with only one win over a top 25 team. They lost in the semifinals of the Big East tournament. So it's a good bet the Wildcats would not have made the tournament if the NCAA had not expanded from 53 to 64 teams. The absence of a shot clock figured through their run in the tournament. Villanova was given an 8 seed, and before tipping off their first game, Vegas had their odds of winning the tournament at 35-1. Just for reference, NC State 2 years prior was a 6 seed and 25-1 to win the title. On their way to the championship game on this night, the Wildcats used the stall game to beat Dayton by a pair, shortened the game against top-seeded Michigan to win by 4, held Len Bias to just 8 points and Maryland overall to just 43 in their 3-point win to make the Elite Eight. Rolly Massimino then outmaneuvered the inventor of the four corners with his own version as the Wildcats beat North Carolina 58-44 to get to the Final Four. Top seeds and Big East companions St. John's and Georgetown both made the Final Four, marking the first time that 3 teams from the same conference had made the Final Four in the same year. The Wildcats held Memphis State to their lowest offensive output of the season in a 52-45 win to move on to the championship game, setting up the meeting with Georgetown, a team they had not beaten that season, and no one gave the Wildcats a chance. Well, there was one kid at my high school who took everybody's money and the Wildcats and the 8 points and ate Nutty Buddies for the rest of the year, but he was the only one that I know of. Okay. The Hoyas were the defending national champs. They had Patrick Ewing, who would soon be the top pick in the NBA draft. The only way that Villanova could win is if they played a near-perfect game. And of course, they did. A lot of that credit goes to Villanova guard Gary McLean, who played the full 40 minutes, handled the Georgetown pressure, and only committed 2 turnovers. They only took 28 shots, and they made 23 of them. That's nearly 79% shooting. By contrast, the Hoyas took 53 shots. Harold Jensen gave Villanova the lead with 2.5 to play, and then the Wildcats stalled, got fouled, hit their free throws, rinse, and repeat. Final score, 66-64, Villanova had won their first men's basketball national championship and beat the Georgetown Hoyas. So a couple of additional things. Villanova, as an 8, is still the lowest seed to ever win it all. There was a lot of talk several years later about Gary McLean being high on cocaine during this game, but he admitted later that he did cocaine prior to the Memphis game in the semifinals, and then took a few snorts before meeting President Reagan during the team's visit to the White House. But he said he did not take cocaine prior to this game against the Georgetown Hoyas on this night in 1985. Also on this day, in 1991, it was Mike Krzyzewski and Duke winning their first men's basketball national title with the 72-65 win over Roy Williams and Kansas. This game was bookended by a couple of fantastic Devil dunks. First, the spectacular alley-oop from Bobby Hurley to Grant Hill, with Hill skywalking to grab it and then dunk it, and then Brian Davis with the game-sealing exclamation point to provide the final margin. this was just the second meeting between these two coaches, and the first in the postseason. Krzyzewski and Williams would go head-to-head a total of 44 times, with most of those meetings coming when Roy was at North Carolina. In 1978, New York Islanders winger Mike Bossy scored a pair of goals in a 3-2 win over Washington, becoming the first rookie to score 50 goals in a season in the NHL. And he was also the first Islander to score 50 in a season. The following year, Gretzky would score 50-plus in his rookie season as well. And in 1969, the Seattle Pilots traded Lou Piniella to Kansas City for a pair of prospects. Piniella would go on to win the American League Rookie of the Year that season. He got out at a good time, too. 1 year later, on the same day in 1970, the Pilots were declared bankrupt. They would eventually be sold to a car dealer by the name of Bud Selig, who moved the team to Milwaukee to become the Brewers. And today's non-sports Did You Know? According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the longest dance marathon ended on this day in 1931, 7 months after it started. The winning couple took home a $2,000 check. That's all for today, and instead of 7 months, it would just take maybe a few minutes to leave a 5-star review and a comment. It would be greatly appreciated. Either way, though, I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.